Welcome to the leading podcast for long-term weight management. Subscribe to the podcast so that you don't miss an episode. You can connect with Jenny on all social media channels. You can also sign up to the newsletter to receive frequent content and tips for weight loss success.
Hey guys, welcome to the latest episode of the Power Over Food podcast. I hope you've had a great week. I hope life is good. At the time of this recording, we've had snow here in most of the UK. And as much as snow can be a bit of a pain, I think it's been quite welcome for a lot of people with their children at home in lockdown. And at least have been able to play and get some joy from a little bit of a snow fight or building snowmans. Just a reminder, if you're finding these podcasts valuable, please leave me a little review on iTunes or drop me a message on social. And if this is the first time that you've listened to one of my podcasts, I strongly recommend that you go back and listen from the start, as there's so much information in each episode to help you with your relationship with food and your relationship with yourself. Now, today I have another guest with me, and as I mentioned on the previous recording, over the next few weeks, I'm going to have a variety of guests lined up with a wealth of knowledge and experience to share with you. So this incredible lady is the founder of Sculpt Change Therapies, which specializes in treatments for Lipoedema or Lipoedema. It's said differently depending on who we speak to. And she's also a fellow Lipoedema fighter or Lipoedema fighter. So we are instantly aligned. And she's going to talk to us about her journey. And we're going to talk about Lipoedema, because we believe it's a condition that is still so unknown and so misunderstood. So I would like to welcome the amazing Karen to the show. Hi, how are you doing? I hope that intro was okay.
Yeah, no, that was perfect.
Fabulous. So can we start off just by would you like to introduce yourself and just tell us about your journey?
A lot of people know my journey. So my name's Karen. I was first diagnosed with lymphedema in 2005. And then I was diagnosed with lipedema in 2015, having kind of known that I had it in 2010, but because the lymphedema was so prominent, it went unknown. I fought for that diagnosis in 2015. And then from there, I was diagnosed with Derkham's disease, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, hypermobility, and osteoarthritis. I've had so many issues with illness in my legs, my body, and I got to a point where I had a bit of a wake-up call in 2016, and I managed to turn a lot of those negatives into some very big positives. And now I've created a business out of teaching myself and learning how to deal with this illness.
Fantastic. An amazing journey that you've come on. And I know we've talked off air in quite great detail about your journey. And just for our listeners, how would you describe Lipoedema? Because I do mention it in my very first podcast, and I explained it very, very briefly as a disease where you have an abnormal amount of fat cells in certain areas in your body. So if anyone's listened to this for the first time and they're not sure what we're talking about, would you explain it the same, or would you add anything to that description?
No, I would explain it as exactly how you've just explained it, is that it's an abnormal fat cell generated, we think, by hormone change, as in puberty, pregnancy, perimenopause, menopause. One of the things that we don't really take into consideration is that trauma can cause your hormones to rise, and so can stress. And that can have a massive impact on your lipedema. It causes the fat cells to inflame and collect fluid, and it then progresses in stages. So it's a chronic connective tissue disorder that Karen Herbst has drawn up papers. So in the last year, whilst we've been at home, there's been a lot of webinars. Yes. We've had so many webinars, and we've been very lucky that many of the surgeons from all over the world, consultants all over the world, have come forward and done these webinars. And one of the biggest things that's come from this, which kind of makes 100% sense, is that this is a connective tissue disease. So then when you look at the Ehlers-Danlos, the fibromyalgia, the chronic fatigue, the osteoarthritis and the hypermobility, it all makes sense. And then you've got a lot of people who suggest that there's this bracket of mast cell syndrome. And then you've got, so you say you've got that, and then you spirogram off of it all of the other illnesses. So are we suffering from mast cell syndrome, and lipedema is one of those legs? Or are we suffering from lipedema, and then the other legs are the other illnesses that I've spoken about, but not just those illnesses, because there are many illnesses that are contributed with these lymphatic diseases.
Wow. Gosh, so, and they also think it's connected genetically, don't pass down the female line.
Through, well, they think it's connected just through the female line, but I'm pretty sure for me it comes through on my father's line.
Really?
So I'm pretty convinced that it comes through from my father's side of things. And there are many women out there, and especially women who I work with within the community, who have had it come from their father's line. Wow. So I just don't think that there's been enough work done yet. There's still a long way to go, and there's still much research that needs to be done in all areas of this. Lipedema is one of those, it's an illness where I said to you earlier that if I was to say another illness and you recognize that name, we want the same to be recognized from lipedema. I should be able to say that, and somebody would say, oh yeah, no, I kind of know what that is. We shouldn't have to be fighting to get recognized, and we shouldn't have to be fighting to get diagnosis. Yeah. But I've been with this now since 2015, and I have seen a lot of improvement.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that the awareness is getting there. There's a lot more on TV. There's a lot more coming up on the internet when you search. But I think for anybody listening, I think what we're trying to say is there's a huge amount of mainly women out there that have lipedema that are not even aware, and they maybe just feel they're overweight, and they haven't recognized that they've got a condition as well. And yes, some of it might be due to excess fat, but some of it is lipedema fat. And for me, when I lost weight, it wasn't until I lost weight that I discovered that I had the disease, because my legs didn't change shape and didn't go down no matter how low I got on the rest of my body. So we want to put that awareness out there, but also, as Karen says, it kind of raise it within the medical community, because I seen doctors and was referred to vascular surgeons who still couldn't help me because they weren't aware of the disease, and they fobbed me off telling me I needed to lose more weight. At one point I was told that it was lymphedema, but they just didn't recognize it at all.
It is genuinely one of the hardest illnesses that I feel is not recognized in the way that it's not given the time and effort that it should be given. It's very obvious that lipedema is not a normal fat. Like, even though I've lost all of my natural fat, when I've had a client or I've allowed somebody to feel the fat on my body, you can feel the granulation underneath the skin. You can feel the beading. And to me, I have thought that that's normal. I've not realized, I didn't realize that was something different. I didn't realize that my friends didn't have that. They had smooth skin. I just thought everybody was the same. But it wasn't until I lost the normal fat that I realised exactly what was going on. You can see for yourself that is not a normal fat that is in the body. And so it needs to be given the attention that it deserves.
Yeah.
And the ladies that are suffering from it deserve the attention. They deserve to be treated the right way, not the wrong way.
No, I totally agree. And especially when you're in that place where you're down on yourself and you are overweight and mentally you're struggling with your shape and maybe not being able to lose weight, and you go to a doctor for help and say, I think I might have this condition, and you're fobbed off. It's the worst feeling in the world. It's so...
Yeah, I've helped ladies.
Yeah.
I've had ladies that have come to me who have gone to GP surgeries and they've gone for diagnosis. And I actually said this to you earlier. You can have one GP in this hand that will understand the condition, but you'll have another GP in the other hand who will just assume that that person is obese and needs to lose weight. Those are the two comparisons that we're dealing with the whole time, whether the education is there or not. That we're fighting to be heard all the time.
Yeah.
And it's an ongoing fight. It's an ongoing fight that I won't give up on. And it's not necessarily about me. It's about the community that I work in, and it's what I'm passionate about.
And talking about the community that you work in, because I know that you're involved in various areas, where would you point people for kind of support, just general support from other ladies that are suffering?
So I'm a trustee for Talk Lipoedema, and Talk Lipoedema have private chat pages on Facebook, and I would point them in the direction of being able to talk to other women who are suffering the same illness and supporting each other. So we have two different pages. We have one which is solely more about support, and then we have the liposuction page. Because there's so many differences between different treatments and things that people and routes that people want to go down, we don't put it all in one set so that it's easier to be able to talk to the person that you really want to talk to. So if you want to go for liposuction, then go and talk to people who have gone down that journey or are wanting to go down that journey. If you're looking for support and you're looking for a friend or somebody friendly to talk to, or you want to discuss how you're feeling, then that's what the private chat is there for. And it's a community that thrives on helping women come to terms with diagnosis, understanding how this is affecting them, understanding relationships within their own relationships. And we are there as a team to support them the whole way through it. And if they choose to come and they're there for a little while and then they disappear, our job is still well done because we've supported them through it.
Yeah. I think it's feeling like you're not alone, isn't it? Because
yeah,
I know
100%.
Certainly for me, none of my friends suffer with lipedema, and I think I'm the only one. But when you like just us talking today, you realise that you're not alone, that there's thousands and thousands.
One of the biggest things I think is that understanding that you're not alone in this, and that there are people out there that are going to help you, is one of the biggest factors that you can have when you are diagnosed with this disease, that you don't have to walk this path. You know, if your family don't understand or your friends don't understand, it doesn't matter, because we are there to support. And we've recognised that there's more support now with these lockdowns. So one of the things that we've been able to do more of is support online, because we're not in our daily day-to-day jobs and everything else. So we can be more online, we can support, we can help. And that's exactly what we're doing.
Fantastic. And you mentioned liposuction, and I just wanted to go back to that because I'm again conscious that some of the listeners won't know why you might choose to have liposuction and might be still thinking, why aren't people just losing the weight? And one of the reasons that people choose to have liposuction is, in general, lipedema fat doesn't go away with weight loss.
No. So even though I've lost X amount of weight, I've not lost the lipedema. I have certainly reduced the volume of the lipedema by decreasing the inflammation out of the fat cell. And that's what I choose to do when I'm helping my clients within my reflexology work. I can help to reduce the inflammation and fluid in the fat cell. So that's a massive one. But I can't lose the lipedema through anything. It's not going to go anywhere. The only way you can get rid of it is to have surgery. You can have surgery and it will get rid of the abnormal fat cell, but there are pros and cons to everything.
Of course.
So it's, you know, you have the good side of things, you have the bad side of things in everything in life. So you have to weigh it up whether or not it's the right move or for your journey. I know several women who have taken that journey to go and have liposuction, but some of them have been to the point where they're completely immobilized and you have no choice. My biggest thing is that I think in early stages to start conservative treatment will help with reducing staging and progression of the illness.
And what other treatment is available and what treatment do you offer?
So I'm a reflexologist and I do a treatment of reflexology and reflexology lymph drainage. Fascia blasting is brought into that as well, which helps to sculpt the body. But on top of that, I do a lot of helping people to see that their minds, by changing things through the mindset, by looking at something in a different way, you can see a different outcome. And to a lot of people, it might sound like it's a bit poppycock, but I do believe that if you keep telling yourself that you're going to be a certain something, it will happen. If you tell yourself that nothing's going to happen for you, it won't happen. And it all comes down to how you see yourself as a person. And it all comes down to how your mind reacts to what you're trying to do for yourself. And that's what I try to teach. I think it's as simple as that. I think it's as simple as understanding what is right for you.
Yes, I totally agree. And you know, I totally agree on the mindset stuff as well. So what would be your top 3 tips, or more if you would like, for anybody listening that has got lipedema and would like to do something at home to help themselves?
Okay, so we get this all the time where they say diet and exercise doesn't work. However, for me, there are ways and means that you can make diet and exercise work. And I think we have to look at that as a whole. It's very easy to turn around and say diet and exercise doesn't work, but I'm not telling anybody that what I do will work for them. However, if you figure out what will work for you, then there are ways and means around this. I totally believe in dry brushing to be able to move the lymph, and there's a lot of that going on at the moment. So my top 3 things would be to look at your diet and see what your food intake is, what your foods that you're intaking is, and see whether or not you can reduce that down to reduce the inflammation in the fat cell. Exercise, when I say exercise, I'm not talking about the kind of exercise I do. I'm just talking about general movement. General movement will keep your lymph moving. And that's the idea. We want the lymph to keep moving. The more we stop, we become stagnant. So anything that is movement is good for the body. So it's not, again, about reducing the body. It's about keeping the body going, keeping your mobility going. Mindset has been a massive one for me. I have had lots of areas in my life traveling this journey where it's been quite toxic. Because I see things in a different way, I now react to things differently. And so that shows on my body, so I get those results. I work hard for those results, But I'm not saying to anybody that they should do necessarily what I do. You will find your own way of working through this, but there's people like me there to help you move through your journey.
That's exactly what I say to my clients. It's your journey. I can guide you. I can tell you what I do, but I'm not saying that's what you should do.
No,
I'm saying you've got to
never would I
work
turn
out.
around to someone and say, right, you have to do X, Y, and Z. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if you take small steps, you'll take giant leaps later.
Yeah. I'm just going to go back on a couple of things. So the dry brushing, would you recommend that as a daily ritual? And is that once a day or twice a day? And how long should people be dry brushing?
That's the thing with dry brushing. You can go on, and I said this to you at the beginning, you can go on YouTube and see X amount of videos about dry brushing, but people come to me about it. For me, I do it once a day. Some people do it twice a day. Some people will do it before a shower. Some people will do it after a shower. It really works with how you want to work it into your routine. If you think of it as a beauty routine, like we have beauty routines, don't we, as women? So we do certain things in the morning and certain things at night. If you add that to your routine, it's the same as like fascia blasting for me. I wouldn't tell anybody to do fascia blasting. That's a personal choice. But for me, fascia blasting is part of a routine. So it's something that I will get up, I will dry brush in the morning, I will have a shower after I've done training, I'll do the dry brushing, I'll have a shower, and whilst I'm in the shower, I will use the fascia blaster. Whereas some people, when I first started, I would do it as taking the fascia blaster and doing it as a different part of a routine, if you like. But now I kind of join things together so it flows easily. And it doesn't have to be something that is very time consuming, because I do see a lot at the moment about we have to do X amount of treatments in the morning and X amount of treatments at night. And the reason why people don't want to do these things is because it becomes time consuming. But if I can take those things down to like 10 to 15 minutes a day, that's a start. So if I can help people to get to that point of doing something in the morning that I know is going to help them, then that's the right thing for them to do.
And what I love that you said was it's part of your beauty routine. And yes, if cleansing your face or shower every day.
The way that I look at it is like, I can sit here and say to you that it's part of my Lipoedema routine, but why am I going to put that in my head? Why do I have to tell myself on a daily basis that is part of a routine for a disease I have? So it's part of a beauty routine, which gives it a better edge. It makes it more appealing. It gives it some sort of life without attaching it to what it is actually being used for.
Yeah, that's so true. And it's good for anyone, regardless.
Regardless.
It's great for getting your circulation.
Regardless. I've got friends who don't have this illness at all. But I was talking to my best friend a couple of weeks ago, and I was talking about dry brushing. And I was online with her in a FaceTime call, and I just pulled up the brush and I showed her what I was doing. And she was going, "Karen, I can't believe your tummy. Like, I can't believe that." And she said, "So if I do this will help with the scar." And I said, "Well, yeah, so give it a go." I think that just give something a go. Why not? What have you got to lose?
Yeah.
And I think that's the way you got to look at things, is what have you got to lose in that? There's nothing you can lose in that.
No.
If you don't like it, then you don't do it again.
Yeah. Give it a go and see what results you get.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so I'm not telling people to go on a diet, and I'm not telling people to do exercise, but I am saying to people, you need to move more. So even if that's sitting in a chair and you're doing minor movements just to get your lymph moving, I guarantee within 7 days, you'll see a difference in yourself. And I'm not talking about mass amounts of weight loss. I'm not talking about mass amounts of loss throughout the lipedema. But if your body starts to react to that, wouldn't it spur you on to start moving in different ways?
Yeah, 100%.
Exactly that.
And the other thing I wanted to go back to, because you mentioned about changing your diet and reviewing your diet, but I know we talked about it before we started recording, and that was an anti-inflammatory diet. So it just, for anybody that's listening, have you got any tips on that?
Okay, so it's a controversial subject because I was 2016, 2017. So I went keto. That's very strict, 20 grams of carbs. And there's lots of people out there who are like anti-keto. Sometimes keto works, it doesn't work. It worked for me. I did it for 2 years. It wasn't easy. And now I'm low carb, high fat. And that works with my body. But I'm not saying that's going to work with everybody's body, because the way we got to look at this is that everybody has a different DNA and a different genetic group. So if Slimming World works for somebody and it doesn't work for me, it's because their genetics will allow them to have that work for them. And Weight Watchers, all of these things that you bring into it. But one of the biggest things that I've learned in the last couple of years, and it's from a good couple of trainers, is that actually a calorie deficit works better than anything if you're looking at helping yourself within the weight loss category I'm talking about. But when it comes to lipedema, anything inflammatory, so you rid the fat cell of the inflammation and the fluid buildup, that's what works. So we're up against a mainstream keto is not the right way to go. Low carb, high fat, why would you do that? You should be in a calorie deficit. Right, fine. Be in a calorie deficit within a low carb, high fat for this illness.
Yeah.
And inflammatory illnesses. And that's what's not understood, is that, yes, the right advice to a normal body would be calorie deficit. But if you don't understand an illness, if you don't understand why that illness is the way it is, then you can't give that advice. So my advice would be, what works for one won't work for another. So you have to figure it out. But then there's people like you and me who are there to help you navigate that system so that it works for you.
Yeah. And I think you're right there about the calorie deficit, because I think whatever you're following, some people follow whether they're counting points, whether they're keto, but if they are not in a calorie deficit, they are not going to lose weight. So you might be eating the right foods for that plan that you're following and you're not deviating from it, you're not having your carbs, but if you're still overeating and eating too many calories, it doesn't matter that you're following the rules of the program, you're still eating
makes no difference. If you're eating keto, for instance, or low carb, high fat, but you're not in a calorie deficit, you will lose the inflammation and you will help you with the fluid in the fat cell. But if you've got normal fat on your body and you're trying to lose that, it won't help. And I think that is one of the biggest things that we don't understand. I do feel like calorie deficit is one of the big, and I didn't know anything about it. It's only because of research, yet again, that I've begun to understand. And when I look at that, it then makes sense to me because I fast. So that puts me in a calorie deficit all the time because I fast.
Yeah.
Some trainers understand that, some trainers don't. However, that is another thing that works for me, but it might not work for someone else. So it doesn't matter what plan you're on. If you stick to a calorie deficit, you're probably going to get better results. I'm not saying you're going to get amazing results, because we all know that lipedema is one of the hardest things to try and lose normal fat with. There is the con of obviously having the disease makes it 20 million times harder for us. But again, without trying it, you can't see the results. So I would always say try.
Yeah.
Like, just give it a go. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You haven't lost anything. But if it does work, what then? It's been hard because I don't look like I have the symptoms of lipedema in a way that some women do. But I did. I've been there, I've traveled that. And so I try and help the best way I can. And one of those things that I feel that I understand more about is nutrition now.
Yeah.
Like I said to you before we spoke, I had a really toxic relationship with food, really toxic. And it's taken a long time to find a relationship with food. And even now, I'm not massively great with that relationship. And I don't think any of us will be, because we're constantly going up against a disease that is not our fault.
Yeah. Well, a lot of clients have said to me in the past, are you going to cure me? And I say, I don't think there's a cure. I think for me, it's about being at peace with food and finding a peaceful relationship with food and being very accepting of yourself, because there's still days now, and I'm 15 years into weight management, where I will make poor food choices. I don't like using the word bad, and I will overindulge and eat high calorie foods that I know that's not good for my body. But on another day, I'll think, well, I had that yesterday, let's pull it back today. And I think it's trying to get to a place where you're like, I'm okay with food. I'm okay. I don't want to say you're never going to be okay, but I think we sometimes we lose weight, we think that's the end of the journey, and actually it's the beginning of weight management journey forever.
Yeah.
And if you think it's the end of the journey and you're never going to fall over, then when you fall over and you're really cross and you beat yourself up and you think, well, what's the point? Because I can't do this. And it's actually, no, this is okay. This is part of the journey. You are changing behavior that's been ingrained in you for 20, 30, 40, 50, maybe even 60 years. And it's okay to fall over in weight management.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Because
like you every fail you are learning.
Yes, that's it. It is an opportunity.
And I've learned that my whole life. Everything that I failed at has only pushed me to grow further. Like with my knee, for instance, last year, that pushed me to understand what overpronation was. That pushed me to understand more about the osteoarthritis, Ehlers-Danlos part of the illness and why that happens. It pushed me to see that physio. It pushed me to see the trainer who was going to help me get myself back up and running again. Not literally, because I can't run. My knees will never be, I will never be a runner, ever. My knees will never allow that. But it did make me, where I thought I was failing and getting angry with it, I then looked for the solution, and that solution has brought growth again. So you're growing all the time. I don't see failure as the way that we see failure. I don't see it as a bad thing. I see it as something that extends to your growth. It brings you closer to what you want. It brings your goals closer. And I think that's something that we lose track of. We see ourselves failing, and so we say, well, what's the point? And then your podcast is Power Over Food. So the point that I would make here is that don't give up. Don't see a bad day of eating as a failure. Just see it as what it is. Accept it and own it.
Yeah.
And then let it go.
Yeah. Take responsibility for it.
Yeah. And then just move on to the next day.
Yeah.
There's no reason to allow food to be that controlling over us.
Yeah, I agree. I say if you can find peace with food, your weight, that will take care of itself.
Yeah.
It will happen naturally once you become okay.
Within lipedema, we are in a harder way of being able to lose weight. I see it every single day. However, losing the natural fat off of your body, I totally believe that there are ways and means that we can do that. And I used to be nervous saying those things out loud because I didn't want it to come across like I was being inconsiderate to people. But there are enough of us that have managed to do that within the disease that I don't feel like I can't not say those words now, beforehand it was like, I don't know if I can say, but I do feel like everybody is different. Everybody's DNA, everybody's genetics is different. I know people who have got mass amounts of lipedema on their body, and it is lipedema, but it's like a different type. It's not like what me and you would know. It's a completely different ball game. But then you've got people who have got different effects of lipedema, and they're losing weight through it. There must be, there must be something there that can help. And it's up to us as individuals to find what works best for each other.
Yeah, and share what we've found. But as you say, it's accepting that we are all completely different, and what works for one might not work for another.
I can't stress enough that obviously we're up against the odds, because lipedema is the reason why so many of us struggle to lose weight. That makes it a harder prospect for us, but there are areas of it that can be done.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Power of food. Don't let it control you.
Yeah, don't let it control you. It's not worth it.
No.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you, Karen. I just wanted to kind of round up by just stressing the fact that we do want to spread the word, and please do share this podcast. Please do talk about this. If you think you may have lipedema and you've not thought about it before, and go and see your GP, reach out to the communities that are available to Lipoedema UK. And there are others when you start Googling, because it's what I did, it's how I found people, and just coming into contact with other people that are sharing this journey makes you feel, as we said before, like you're not alone. So please do reach out. Please do share this podcast. If you would like to follow Karen on social, it's at Kaz Talks on Instagram. And obviously, if you've come across this on Instagram, we'll be linked anyway, so you can find her. And if you've got any problems finding her, drop me a message and I will point you in the right direction. Or if you can't find any of the communities out there, please drop me a message and we can point you in the right direction. So let's together help it become more of a name that is just known and okay. It's not what's that, or why has that person got, larger limbs or bigger buttocks or whatever. Let's just make it, widespread, well known, and let's try and get help and treatment and point people in the right direction, and try and get more of the medical community on board and being able to diagnose this faster, so people are not suffering alone. So that's it today. Don't forget to reach out, as I've just said. Love hearing from you. It inspires me to know that you are making changes and that you are benefiting from listening to these podcasts. You can connect with me on social. You can join my Power Over Food Mastermind group on Facebook, and follow closely, because I will soon be launching my Power Over Food course, which I'm going to launch with a trial group. So if you're interested, please do let me know, so you can come and trial that and see how you can change your relationship with food and look at your understanding of yourself, not just food, but understanding of yourself, and have a more peaceful relationship with yourself and with food. And finally, there are thousands and thousands of us out there struggling with our weight. So please, if you think somebody would benefit from listening to this, let them know, share it. So thank you again, Karen. And
you're welcome.
And thank you everyone for listening, and enjoy the rest of your day.